Future Vision and Growth Network, and this is my long format um, podcast. And so let's talk about it. This is a little bit different than my normal 1 minute blurbs that I do, or my series that I do. And so I'm gonna warn you. I said today is gonna be a little bit of an emotional day, so I'm gonna let my feelings happen. So I'm not going to shield them. I'm not going to change them. I'm not going to push them down or anything like that, because it's going to deal with two very serious topics, and topics that mean a lot to me, and that is fear and faith. And so I want you to understand where I'm coming from. I want you to understand that this is my road, my journey, and my space. So if you disagree, that is fine. I'm perfectly comfortable with that. I said it is not your faith, it's not your journey, it's not your fear, it's not your journey. It's just my journey. And so I want to kind of delve into it. But I'm going to tell you right now that today is a day where I've had to deal with both faith and fear. And I've watched people deal with fear in the last week, and I've watched people have faith in the last week. And so I want to kind of walk through those two concepts and really sit down and have a conversation. And I think let's start with fear, because I think it's something that is inherent and natural in who we are. We're taught from when we're really, really little to be afraid. Why? Because it's a healthy dose of fear, we call it. Why? Because we want you to, it's a kid that is, headed for the street and going to walk in front of a bus because they don't know to stop. So we need to be like, stop, be careful. And then we let them know, oh, you need to look both ways. You need to watch where you're going and make sure that you're not stepping in front of a bus. Like we need you to know that. Or the kid that's up on the top of the monkey bars, and you know what's about to happen, and you're the parent over there, you're like, I've done this, I've seen this, oh my God. And yet that kid looks like they're gonna leap, and they're like, I can fly, and they want to just jump off those monkey bars and fly. Little do they know there's concrete at the bottom. And you're like, ugh, we're gonna end up at the hospital. But they had ultimately an ultimate faith experience, while the parent had an ultimate fear experience, because kids do the craziest things. They really, really do. But fear can help you. Fear can give you boundaries, but it also can be an absolute stifling chokehold on what you want to get done and what you want to be in your life. And you have to figure out which one is it. So let's talk about fears for a second. I am naturally an optimistic person. I'm a person who loves to believe in the power of everything, and wants to believe that everybody's going to be wonderful. And I adore just thinking that the world is fantastic. And yet I'm also very much a nervous person. Why? Because I've been, afraid. I've been scared. I've had challenges. I've lived life, and life is always colorful, which we'll talk a little bit more when I get to the faith side of this. And there's a lot that just happens. There's a lot that is going on, and we're living in two different worlds. We're living in a fear world and a faith world. And so which one are we trying to feed? Which one are we trying to do things with? So my fears, let me just lay them out so that everybody knows. I said, I get afraid that I'm not going to be a good enough parent. And now understand why I say that. I said, I have two beautiful sons. My sons are incredible. I've talked about them. If you go on Boy Dad, you're going to see a whole bunch of stuff about my sons, and they make me laugh and crack me up. They're super smart, they're super intelligent, and they're incredible. I said, but I worry. I worry that will I be a good enough dad that will give them the tools they need enough to become the young men that I hope they will. I worry about, am I going to be a good enough husband to my wife? I said, she is an incredible human being. She has walked this earth spreading light and joy around the people that comes in contact with. She's phenomenal. I said, today's a very special day. Why? Because we started dating 23 years ago today. And you know what? I remember the day. I remember the day like it was yesterday, because it changed my life forever. But I was scared, y'all. I was super scared, because I didn't know what that was. I didn't know what dating was. And understand, I was, 24 years old? Nope, 20, Yeah, 24 years old, I think. Or 25. 25 when we started dating. I was 25 years old when we started dating. I hadn't dated anybody seriously. And all of a sudden, this little Latina came out of nowhere, and she, like, caused stuff to happen. And I was like, what's happening? Well, I was scared. I didn't know what to do. I didn't know how to date. I didn't know any of those things. And what I didn't know was neither did she. And so we were going to walk together, and we're going to create this life together that absolutely is amazing. Is it perfect? No, but guess what? Life isn't. Life isn't. And so I had fears. I had fears at that moment. I said, oh, I'm going to have to be a boyfriend. Oh, I'm going to be a fiance 2 years later. Oh, I'm going to be a husband 2 years after that. And then, 13 years later, we're going to have kids. And I'm like, what? I mean, all these things that I'm like, it was total. And I'd be scared. My eyes would be buggy out of my head. And I mean, and everybody's like, don't worry. And I'm like, oh, funny from the cheap seat sitting over there. I said, because guess what? This cat's worried. I'm a little nervous. And so I was afraid. That was my fear. My fear mechanism comes in when I'm going into the future. Why? Because I don't know what's around the bend. I don't know what's next. And I want to know. I'm a control person. I want to know what's going to happen. I want to know who is going to be there for me, who's not going to be there for me, what's going to be there for me, what am I looking at? And I'm like, and I just don't know. And I don't know. To this day, I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen next week, let alone what's going to happen now. I have an idea. I have a thought. I have a possibility, but I don't know. Because I've had moments in my life where, guess what? I thought I knew, and I didn't know. Whether it was, March 13th of 2020, when I left my students at the University of Central Oklahoma and thought, have a great spring break, never did I know that I would not see them for another 9 months. Never did I know that I would not be in their space for almost a year, and that life, once we stepped foot back on that campus, would never be the same. It would never be the same. I've had jobs where I've walked in and thought I knew, and I have had no idea. I said where I thought, oh, this would be the greatest job ever, and it maybe was even better than I thought, because I took myself out of it. I took my fears and my nervousness and all that out of it and just said, what can I learn? The best jobs, no matter what they are, I waited tables for 4 years. I loved that job. You know why? Because I learned a ton waiting tables. If you've ever been a server, you just let me know in those comments, where'd you work at? I said, because if you've been a server in your life, if you've worked waiting tables, you know there's fear and there's faith involved in that. Why? Because you've got to go up to each table and make sure they are taken care of, and then have faith that they will understand that you are valuable. And then they put that down on the table, and that's how they tell you whether that's true or not. So that job has been interesting. I worked at UPS, which I've talked about in my last podcast, and I gave them a shout out. Why? Because I worked for UPS for about 2 months, 3 months. And you know what? It was scary. I said, why? Because you're moving millions of packages around, and it's fast. The environment is fast. The people are highly skilled at what they do, and they just do it, and they know their way around. So I was in an environment that I was not prepared for. Had nothing to do with them. Had everything to do with me. I wasn't prepared for the environment. I was not prepared to do the work that needed to be done in that environment. So I was like, wait a minute. So then I needed to have faith that God was going to go ahead and take care of that, and God did. He allowed me to start teaching for Oklahoma City Community College GED courses, which I love to teach. I've been an educator since 2010. 2010, I was an educator. I started at UCO in Edmond, taught Success Central, Success Strap, started working at Rose State, and then stopped working at those two institutions for a little bit. After the pandemic, had some challenges that definitely tested my fear and faith and fear of having a place to live, having a place to be, taking care of myself, making sure that I made major changes because I was making decisions that were not great for me and great for my family, and I needed to get that fixed. And so I needed to sit down and go, what do I need to do this for my best health? And what do I need to do for my wife and I's health? And then what do I need to do for my health, my wife's health, and my children's health? And then we can all work together and move forward. And at that point, again, I put my hands out and I put myself in a faith position and said, help me. And in the rawest form, I got helped. I have a family that wrapped themselves around me. I have people that took care of me. I have a support system that took care of me. And I stepped out into a new thing as I started as an executive member on the state PTA, which I'm like, that was not on my cards, but I was like, there we go. There's an opportunity. Take it. I took it and I stepped out in faith and we did that. So, and now my fears now are a little bit different. Why? Because 3 years ago, I said I lost my mom, and she was what I would consider my champion. She was the one that saw me perfect no matter what. She may give me criticism. She may tell me what she thinks because she always had opinions about everything. I said, but the reality is she looked at me and thought I was perfect. And that was something that's very, very special about parents with their children is that, yes, you may critique them, but ultimately they're perfection in your eyes. And that's the way that they should be. And so I lost my mama about 3 years ago. And then my dad lived in Oklahoma until about 6 months ago. And 6 months ago, he moved to Minnesota. And now my dad was 4 years older than my mom. And so this year he's what, 74? I think 74 years old at this point. And so this would have been their 50th wedding anniversary this year. So it's like a milestone year. And it's a lot. It's a lot. It's a lot to go through grief. It's a lot to age. It's a lot to do all the things. And so I have been able to share the fact that I've been through grief. I've been through challenges. I've been through things that can help you make great decisions and things that can help you make not great decisions, and I get to choose which one. That's my joy that I get to do that and to really walk through that and say, you know what, I'm gonna walk with you and we're gonna walk together. We're gonna do this. And I'm like, and that's an important thing for everybody, is to know that you are not by yourself. You are not alone. There are people around you that are watching you and will take care of you and will help you and will guide you. You may not be looking in the space you think, because you may have it, oh, I need it from here, I need it from here, I need it from here. And yeah, it may not be coming from that space, because that person may not be the person that could do it for you at the time, but somebody else did. So I always encourage you to look around you and say, who are the helpers? Who are the ones that are helping me? Who are the ones that are taking care of and stepping in when they needed to? Because this person couldn't, or this person had other things going on, and yet you had somebody there. You had somebody in your corner being a champion. And I said, if you don't, please ask. Please start building relationships, because I think that's important. So, and I mean, financially, fear, I've let go of some of that, but it still is there, because you know what? Money is power, and money is powerful. And we are told that if you don't have it, you should be trying to acquire it. If you don't have enough, you're not successful. If you are not in a certain bracket, then what's wrong with you? If you're not working a certain job, then what is your status? And you'll hear that a lot. And that exacerbates your fears, that enhances your fears, and tells you this is just very different. This is an experience that I was not prepared for. So those are my fears. Those are the things that I'm out there. I'm like, what about that? So then I have my opposite side. And I think this is an important thing. And I'm going to qualify this by saying, again, this is my faith journey, and my faith journey through my spirituality, the way that I see it. So I do recognize that this may not be your faith journey. It may not be your religion. And you may have a completely different world religion or non-religion, and that is okay. That is up to you. But I grew up, my background is I grew up ELCA Lutheran. So that was kind of my history. And I have been in, and my family has been around 12-step programs most of my life. And so that influences my faith as well. And just life and nature and the way things work influence my faith journey as well. So growing up is very traditional, very normal. Why? Go to church, go to Sunday school, go to communion, go to confirmation. If you're a Catholic or Lutheran, you understand communion and confirmation. Communion being, when you got the sacraments and you were able to take communion the first time. If you were Lutheran, it was actual wine and it burned going down your throat. And you're like, you felt what you believe to be the Lord, because it was like something was burning going down your chest. This confirmation is learning about the faith in the background and doing all the work. Now understand, in Lutheran church, it was like 2 years. Or in the Catholic Church, I think it was like 9 months. So it's a little bit different, but very similar. The two religions is Lutheran and Catholicism. We were a little bit more liberal than the Catholic Church, but ultimately I grew up that way. The tenets of the church are pretty simple. It's faith and grace, and it's works, faith, grace, and works. And that is that, you have faith that God's going to provide and take care of you. You have grace, believing that, people are people and that we need to have grace and love them anyways. And then it is works, is what you do with all of that. And that is the basis of the tenets of my faith. Now, my relationship, so you hear this, I live in the South. In case you don't know, in the South, there's a big discussion about the relationship with God. And there's a lot of conversation around it and what it should look like and how you should express it and all of that. And I'm going to tell you, this is mine. And my version of that is that God and I are in constant communication. We are always talking. I talk to him when I get up. I talk to him when I go to bed. I talk to him while I'm driving. I talk when I'm in joyful moments, saying thank God for this. Thank you, and I appreciate it. I get down on my knees when I need him, and I need him to help me pick me up. And I said, I have all of those things. And I think that helps me understand that even when I'm mad, because I also get mad at my God. I said I get mad and I get angry, and I'm like, when I have loss, when I have struggles, when I have people that are not doing what they're supposed to, I'm angry. I'm mad. I'm not joyful, happy. Oh, thank God. It's just a life lesson. No, I'm angry, and I will say so, and I will yell, and I will get upset, and I will cuss, and I will be upset. I remember when I lost someone close to me, I screamed at God. I screamed, and I'm like, but you know what? He's big enough, he can handle it. He's big enough, he can handle my anguish and my fear and my being scared, and know that that's something that he can wrap his hands around and say, I'll hold you for now until you can step foot on that ground and walk your left foot, right foot, left foot, right foot. And there will be a time I will hold you, but you will walk on your own. And it will be your job to walk on your own and share with other people what you have gone through so that I can help other people walk on their own. That this is not a job where I'm going to sit back and let you just sit there and do nothing. And so I hear that. And so sometimes I'm sitting with students. I'm having really hard conversations. We're having really open conversations. We're talking about the world that they live in. We're talking about the spirituality that they're going through, the questions that they have. And we're just sitting and having conversations and saying, what does this look like for you? Because again, it's not my walk, it's their walk. So I want to hear what their walk looks like, because it's not going to be the same. When I go and do something different, when I'm like, oh, wait a minute, I'm going to try, thank you, God, that's been great. I appreciate your help. Let me just kind of take this, I got this. Appreciate it. I'm going to walk over here and then go over here and then start trying to handle it myself. What I have found is that when I try to handle things myself, guess what? It does not go great. It does not go great. So that I have to remind myself that there is something out there that definitely guides my life to make it easier for me to continue to do what I do, to live the life I live with a spiritual energy. And sometimes I get to see it. Now, I don't get to see it in the traditional, like, ghostly sense. Like, I'm not seeing angels come down, at least not yet. I say yet because, you never know. But I sure do get my lights flickering. I will get a whole bunch of, like, signs and signals. And nature is a big one. Nature likes to send me signals all the time. So whether it's dragonflies that come to visit, or it is cardinals that I'll see that go right across my path when I need them. In case you don't know, the symbolism of dragonfly is, of course, someone coming to visit as well. But then the cardinal is that someone comes out of heaven and then wants to pay you a visit. Sometimes you have two people, and that's like one of the fun things when they come and visit and show up. For me, it's also energy. It's wind, where I can feel the hair on the back of my neck stand up and let me know that, oh yeah, there's somebody there. And it's not like and it's just a feeling or an energy, or when everything is like super chaotic and you feel calm, or there's been a major thing happen and yet you step back and go, wait a minute, I survived that one, and someone was holding me to protect me because I was in a space that would have been very, very difficult. So that happens. I love the idea of spirituality. I love the idea of that faith walk. Why? Because it tests me. So, and I'm going to tell you, I flunk sometimes. Why? Because fear will win. And when fear wins, when fear is ahead and fear decides it wants to win, it can do it. It will throw things at me. I'm like, you're going to be afraid of this. You're going to be afraid of that. You're going to be afraid of that. And I'm just sitting here like, and you are wrapped up. But when fear wins, then there's little room for faith. So then faith steps back. And it's like, you get to be in that. You get to figure out what that is. And when you're ready, I'm waiting. And then when I'm like, oh, wait a minute, I'm wrapped up in fear. There's too much going on right now. Let me step back. And I step back, and then I open myself up and say, God, there's an opportunity. There's an opportunity to be better. There's an opportunity to change this. I have ultimate control over this situation. Even if I don't have control over this circumstance, I have control over the situation. Understand the nuance of that. I may be dealing with a death, a loss, something else that's going on, a situation, a trauma, or whatever. But my response to that, what I do to that as a response, is whether I'm walking in fear or I'm walking in faith. And don't mistake that. Don't mistake that faith is compliance. Don't mistake that faith is agreement, or faith lets something happen that shouldn't, because that is not at all what faith is. Faith is understanding that I don't have to be in this situation. I don't have to let this situation rule my life, but I can step back and go do something else, and I do not have to let that run me. And so I will acknowledge that situation, that it occurs. I will acknowledge the fact that I'm in it, but I will walk away from it. And I will walk away from it with my power and myself intact. I will walk away with it, say, that is an experience that I had, an experience in my past, but it will not define my current reality and what I'm doing. I will not allow it to control or take care of what I'm doing, because if I do that, then I've lost. I've given my faith away, and I'm not doing that. I'm not doing that. It's too important. Faith will be challenged. Faith will be challenged in many different ways. The second that you profess your faith or you say you have a faith, I promise you it will be challenged. It will be challenged immediately. So when you say, I believe in this, the second you believe it, someone's going to say, but what about this? And what about that? And what about this? And what about that? And ultimately, you're going to have to step back and go, do I believe it? Or did I just say it? And there's two different versions of that. if I believe it, then I have a lot of beliefs. And in my world, my beliefs are this. If I believe in my faith, I believe that I can love everybody no matter what. Again, I don't have to love a situation. I don't have to love a person. I don't have to love their circumstance. I don't have to be your best friend. But ultimately, I have to open up the idea that God is powerful and God can change things even though I don't love it. Faith to me is asking for help. That one's tough. Why? Because you're like, I can do this myself. No, you really can't. You really do need help. You maybe are hurt. You maybe have been hurt, and maybe you're scared to ask for help because somebody's told you no, or you didn't get what you thought you wanted out of it. But faith means asking for help. Faith means taking a risk. And I have a whole series on risk, and I'm not going to do that again because it took a long time. But faith means taking a risk. It means you saying, I'm willing to step out. I'm willing to take a little bit of a leap. Not saying a full leap, leave the family, go somewhere. No, not like that. I'm saying take a risk, a little bit of a risk, and say, hey, let's try something new. Let's do something a little different. Maybe your faith is not to do a lot, is to do less and see what happens. And see if maybe that's better for me if I do less. Maybe it's something we need to go backwards to go forwards, which is like, what? That does not fit with what society tells us to do. Go forward, press on, work. No, not necessarily. Sometimes it may be stop, rest, reflect, then go forward. It may be that. And I'm seeing that. I'm seeing that this week. This week is a huge week for that. My big conversation this week has been, what are we doing? Because I've watched people who have been on a pathway, been on almost what it looks like a divine pathway, go, and then stop. And then say, pull back, do something different, move over this way, change their career, stop what they're doing, slow down, get more connected. And I called it reverse pandemic. It's like pandemic-esque. It's very interesting where we're, instead of going like forward towards everything that we're doing and consuming and going out there and living life as if it could be gone tomorrow and just doing everything we've ever dreamed and wanted and spending as much money as we wanted, we're stopping and going, whoa, we went too far. Let's zoom back over here and let's go back here. Let's start slowing back down, like coming back home, figuring out what we need to get done and reassessing and then deciding what that next chapter looks like. And I was, honest to God, a little judgy. I was real judgy. I wasn't a little judgy. I was real judgy. And I was like, these people are just quitting. They're just not doing what they're supposed to. They're deciding, you know what, we want the world to be this way, but then they want to step back and not be a part of it. I mean, I had all kinds of opinions. And I was like, So then I had to step back and rely on my faith a little bit, rely on my ability to reason and understand and be present and know and aware. My awareness is very, very high. And look at that situation and say, wait a minute. Are they doing that because they're afraid, or are they doing that because they need to find out how far they went? And for a lot of people, they wanted to find out how far they went. Or it was a circumstance they couldn't avoid. Like it wasn't like they could say, hey, we're going to not do that anymore. Well, they had to. That was the circumstance they're in. And so they took a leap of faith. Their leap of faith is that they're going to cut back. Their leap of faith is that they're going to go back to what they know and get comfortable again before they then step out and go a different direction. And I needed to honor that and say, you know what? That's a good decision. It may not be what I think is right, but guess what? I'm not the arbiter of everything right. I'm not the one that gets to decide what's right and what's not right. I'm not the one that gets to determine whether what you're doing is correct or not. Believe it or not, I don't get to judge you. Yet I was making opinions, and my opinions had a lot of judgment in them. And so I'm like, So then it became not about them anymore. Then it became about, what about me? And so then I started looking around, and I got to watch the bees and the butterflies, and I'd have videos about that, and I have videos about my pollinators and how they're creating food, even though it's not that time of year. And I mean, it's just all these things that are happening that I get to watch and be amazed by, and know that every year a cycle happens. And I'm so excited. And it just shows me the possibilities and the opportunities and the way that things transpire and the way they go. And if I walk in that faith side, I get to be aspirational. I get to look forward. I get to see what's possible. And I get to understand that my brain is not big enough for the possible wealth and things and impact and the things that I have that I'm going to be able to give, because I'm still walking through it. I'm learning it. I'm becoming it. And it's something I have to do and understand it and really just go into it. And so I think that's the biggest thing that where I'm at right now, is I am putting this out there. I'm putting this out there into the world. And you all are getting to see it. Now understand, long form is fascinating. I said, why? Because long form is just a different form. But my hope is that you get a chance to listen to this and get something from it. Hopefully you connect to it and that it makes sense to you. And maybe it's just like, yeah, I'm going through that too. Yeah, me too. Me too, brother. And if it is something like that, please listen. Why? Because we get to talk about it. And this isn't the end of my story. This is just a part of it. And I want you to also hear it and be a part of it as well. And also talk about your journey, man. Tell people about where you're at. Connect with people. Why? Because I think the more we talk about our journeys, the more we find out we are walking similar paths. We have people that can walk with us and can support us. And I think that's important, because ultimately fear is there, but faith is more powerful. And I have faith that you all will be there. And I'm excited to continue this journey with you.